Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
Stellaris is going to be getting a brand new mode coming very, very soon. As you've probably read in the title or thumbnail to this video, that mode is cooperative mode. In this video, we're going to be looking at what this new feature is, what you'll be able to do with it, and some of the changes they've made in-game to accommodate this entirely new way to play Stellaris. I'm very excited, I hope you're excited. Let's dive in and find out what on earth is going on. One of the major Custodian features planned for the 3.8 Gemini update is the addition of two, yes you heard me correctly, not one but two cooperative gameplay modes. Up to 5 players will be able to control the same empire and work together to play the game as a team. Before we actually dive into the significance of new cooperative modes and what they're going to be, I'd like to just jump back for a moment, if you'll bear with me, to that sentence right at the beginning. I think that gave us quite a bit more information than it possibly intended to. First, we're saying one of the major features. That means cooperative mode is not the major feature coming in the 3.8 Gemini update. This alone would be a massive, massive change to the game, at least in my opinion, that would warrant its own update. If the Custodians only delivered this with one of their quarterly updates, I personally would be very, very happy. So we're going to be getting multiple major features coming in 3.8. Not only that, they have chosen, the developers, to specify that we are getting major Custodian features in the 3.8 Gemini update. The fact that they have had to specify Custodian features, this is one of the Custodian features, would imply that we're also getting non-Custodian features. A non-Custodian feature would be the other team who are developing work for Stellaris, that is, I believe, the Crisis team, and that team deliver paid DLC content. So this opening sentence of Dev Diary 293, in my opinion, almost guarantees that we're going to be getting a new DLC coming out with 3.8 Gemini whenever that release date is. I still have my fingers crossed for internal politics, but let me know down in the comments below what you hope that the major DLC expansion for 2023 will add to Stellaris. Given that we generally get the major DLC expansion in around May, I think it's a safe bet to assume that's what will be coming with the 3.8 Gemini update. But let's jump back into the titular feature being discussed today in that 3.8 update, and that is of course the new cooperative mode. Or should I say the two new modes? Surveys suggest that there are two distinctly different reasons people want to play together. The first reason is that they want to play a PvE game of Stellaris with their friends, either to teach them how to play the game or to have a more relaxed game where we can share the duties of empire management between a number of people. Stellaris, as you probably know, is a complex game, and learning to play can be difficult without a guiding hand. Whilst some people do learn well by watching informative videos created by the community, hi there, others might be doing better playing alongside a friend. The other group of people are a bit more combative. They want to play a multiplayer PvP game of Stellaris where teams of players go up against each other. The cognitive load when playing competitive multiplayer can at times be overwhelming, especially during wars. Being able to split duties with other players on the same team could provide an enjoyable experience. The Custodian team have tried to support both goals through two different modes of play with slightly different game rules. And at this point I have to take my hats off to the Custodian team, and whichever developers have implemented this feature, because honestly, this 6 or 7 years after the release of Stellaris to be getting more features like this one, like cooperative gameplay, is absolutely wonderful. Hearts of Iron has had something like this for years, and as a player or even as a content creator, having access to cooperative modes of play opens up the door for all sorts of shenanigans. The first of those two types was cooperative. A new main menu entry now will exist for starting a cooperative player versus environment game, where all human players control the same empire. Looking at this screenshot, they've basically added in an extra tab down at the bottom that we can select from. New game, multiplayer, and now C for cooperative. This will bring the players to a game browser screen where one of them can choose to host a new game, just like the regular multiplayer flow. The hosting player will go directly to the empire selection screen where they can create a new empire or select one they've already created as normal. Select the galaxy settings for the game and then begin the session. Unlike regular multiplayer, the cooperative PvE flow bypasses the game lobby entirely, and the co-op players will not need to select an empire. These players hot join directly into the hosting player's empire once the game has begun. For most purposes, cooperative PvE is treated the same way as single player PvE. This could be a little problematic. I'm suspecting that means you'll have access possibly to console commands. Interesting. This also, because I'm reading here that we're going to be directly hot joining, could have some stability issues. It does make sense now that the developers are planning on a 3.8 open beta, meaning we'll be able to get our hands on this cooperative mode as a community before 3.8 actually releases and play test it so hard. I can imagine a lot of people are going to want to play test this quite a bit, but play through it so hard and so much that the developers get a constant and never-ending stream of bug reports in order to be able to fine-tune it and get rid of any stability issues that you might imagine arising when it finally gets released as a proper update and not as an open beta. And if you're enjoying this video, please use co-op to defeat that like button. Then we have the competitive PvP mode, as they are calling it. The flow for creating a competitive multiplayer cooperative game is similar to the normal multiplayer flow. One player will host the server, and then they will be given the option of ticking the Allow Cooperative checkbox. When they do that, it will enable multiple people to join the same empire and have multiple player-based empires across the game. I am particularly excited by this new feature as it's going to have a massive impact on my next Stellaris Timelines campaign. And speaking of Stellaris Timelines, it's probably a great moment to announce the next Timelines campaign that's going to be coming to a screen near you. Starting on Friday, May the 12th and continuing over the entire weekend, I am going to be running and streaming a Stellaris Timelines spin-off series that will take place over the course of just that weekend, starting on Friday and going all the way through to Sunday. There will be 20 participants invited to take part in this Stellaris Timelines campaign. Admiral tier and above patrons will be guaranteed a spot in the campaign, and then the rest of the 20 participants will be found by doing a random ballot drawn from other YouTube channel members and patrons. Links to Patreon and channel membership are down in the description below. And let me tell you, we are almost certainly going to be using this new co-op feature. But what will happen once you're in the lobby itself? Well, other players can join the game lobby and open up their empires for additional players. Here we can see that PDX Eladrin has ticked the cooperative box and somebody has decided to join his empire. empires that have been opened up to cooperative play, add an inspect icon to the portrait so that prospective players can see the details on the empire before deciding to join. For example, here we can see the Roccan Resistance. You might know it as the prefab payback empire in the game. And this feature is going to be really useful and important for you as a player if you're joining a multiplayer co-op lobby, working out which empires you want to join based on whether or not they're any good. In order to ensure the security and continuing stability of our multiplayer games, the primary player of each empire will be able to lock their empire, and they will be able to add a password requirement to joining or inspection. That means we should still be able to combat trolling to at least a reasonable degree. But that is not it, ladies and gentlemen. The devs have not simply given us some new lobby-based options and allowed us to run riot. No, we're also getting actual in-game features that will support and enable cooperative play. These features are, of course, UI features. It's often useful to know what on earth your teammates are up to. To make it a little bit easier to understand what's going on, the devs have added presence markers to the UI, which will show which tabs your teammates are currently using. We can see an example here. Player 1 on the left is in the technology screen. Player 2 on the right has a red marker on the left-hand side showing us what player 1 is looking at. There is also a go-to button on the top right, and I believe that UI element, if you click on it, will take you and show you what on earth the other player is actually looking at as well. I don't believe this go-to button will actually open up whatever menu they're looking at, but it will move your camera to their location. So if they're looking at a system or a planet or something like that, you'll be able to click go to and see what they are seeing. That should have a really positive impact on communication. The number of times I have been playing and said something along the lines of go look at System X and then had to spend about 5 or 10 minutes explaining where System X was or Fleet X or something like that, this is going to make that so much easier. You might be thinking though, what happens when an event pops up? Will all the players be shown? Will just one of the players be shown? How is it going to go down? Well, events will be shown to all members of a cooperative team, and any member of the team can select a response. The window will remain in place with the selected option marked with the icon of the player that made the choice. As we can see here, the toxic terraforming candidate popped up. There was only one choice, but an event option was selected by Eladrin, the game director, to say fascinating, and no one else had to do anything. They will need to get rid of it either by clicking on the X or clicking fascinating, but once an option is selected, no one else is going to be able to change that. This probably means you don't want to have people that are trigger fingers and who also don't know what they're doing playing on your team if you're playing a competitive multiplayer game. I can't wait to get my hands on this. I can't wait to be able to use it to not only do collaborative new pieces of content with people like EP30 and others in the community, but also just to be able to play with friends. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Thank you once again to the Custodian team and whichever developers are responsible for this feature. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to find out more about the changes coming to Stellaris with patch 3.8, you might want to know all about how diplomacy is going to be changing. If you do, click the video on screen now.